Hey, how's it going? My name is Panda or Brian, whatever you guys know me by. Today I'm bringing you a roundtable discussion, which is a discussion that we have at Truth, Money, and Freedom on a daily basis. You can join us in our discussions by going to the Discord link right here or check the description if you're on YouTube. Enjoy.
Welcome to Truth, Money, and Freedom. Today is Monday, the 24th of June, 2019. Hey, today I've got a special treat for you, gang. I have got American Man 1967, I've got Conjecture, and Sir Brian all joining in to talk about Bitcoin because, of course, Bitcoin is all over the news. The market cap is rising, and it feels like it's time now for it to actually start rising above its old high of $20,000. Hey, welcome, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going okay. So,
Awesome.
got an article in front of me, and it's 4 reasons why Bitcoin's price won't stop at 20K this time. Although it's, an interesting article, one thing I want to point out that's really, really important here is that this article is pointing out institutions, not retail, is now in the driver's seat. And what that means is institutional money is pouring into cryptocurrencies now. This is, you wanted to really kind of be in before that happened, in case, they drive it up so high that, basically it becomes untenable for the average person to get in. But that's kind of the way the fundamentals have worked on this, since the beginning. And by the way, it's not a Ponzi scheme. It's a currency. It's a currency that's actually deflationary, not inflationary, but deflationary. And actually, Conjecture, we'll talk more about that in just a little bit, why Bitcoin is deflationary, why it goes up in value and not down. But Sir Brian, do you have any comments on this?
Oh, not really. I think it's really interesting how Bitcoin's doing right now.
Yep, Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies as well. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, let's take a look at what it's doing right now on the market cap as we speak. And I'm going to do a refresh here. The coin market cap is at 331 billion. Bitcoin is at $11,064. And it seems to be climbing. And of course, there's always going to be pullbacks. There's always going to be small corrections in a market like this, but they seem to be acting very, very quickly before that, it starts going back up again. Conjecture, would you like to talk a little bit about the fundamentals of Bitcoin?
Yeah, with Bitcoin, it was actually modeled after gold. Believe it or not, the creator wanted it to kind of model gold mining, thus that you would have a large abundant supply towards the beginning. And then it would taper itself off the further you got until Bitcoin stopped being produced. And that's why, that's one of the reasons why Bitcoin will continually go up in value, is because the amount that is created is going to come to an ultimate end. As a matter of fact, it might actually be slightly better than gold, because gold, we can just keep mining more, and if we ever run out of gold on Earth, we can go into space. Bitcoin, once you hit 21 million, that's it. There is no more Bitcoin. There will never be any more Bitcoin, ever. And what makes this quite unique is when you compare it to other currencies like fiat. You look at the US dollar, and just in the last 10 years, we doubled the amount of US dollars that are out there. Bitcoin, came into existence roughly about a little over 10 years ago. And we're almost to the end. We're getting to the point where it's getting really, really scarce. There's almost no more Bitcoin being created. And there's only going to be 21 million of them. And a bit like gold, back how gold used to work, if Bitcoin gets lost, it's lost forever. And that brings up the value of the remaining Bitcoin.
Yep, in that way it's deflationary, isn't it?
Very much so, because once we hit the end, we can only go down.
Yep. Down in the amount of Bitcoin, not down in the value, is what you meant, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And what is quite unique is when you look at all these, fiat currencies everyone is using, no one wants to hold these things.
No.
If the United States dollar is going to be devalued 50% in 10 years, and that's supposed to be the best currency, you can only imagine how bad the rest of them are.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. It's pretty exciting, actually, because as the U.S. currency is taking a hit and how it has so little purchasing value actually left to it, in fact, by current estimates, the dollar is worth approximately 3.6 cents as we speak. And that's going by the creation of the Federal Reserve notes. So that would be starting in 1913 when the dollar had 100 pennies worth of value to it. 100 pennies actually was a dollar back then. But now the dollar itself is only worth 3.7 cents or 3.7 pennies. And I think that's a large reason why alternatives are very, very attractive right now. In fact, it's not just Bitcoin that's going up, gold is going up too. I'll go ahead and get gold chart up. And it's at $1,426. Now, to put this in perspective, 24 hours ago, or I'm sorry, 1 week ago, it was $1,341. It's nearly grown, gold has gone up by nearly $100 in the last week. And that spells, in any other circumstances where you see gold going up and Bitcoin going up at the same time, you might want to look at the dollar and see what it's doing. You might want to look at the bond market and see what it's doing. Because these are assets I believe people go into when they're afraid that the value of the dollar is going to go down some more. American Man, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, first of all, I didn't realize the dollar only had 3 cents of value left. That comes as quite a shocker to me. This is not my area of expertise. I'm trying to only learn as much as I can about this stuff, but wow, that kind of blew me away, TC, to say the least. I'm still learning about blockchain and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. All this stuff's very interesting. It's intriguing. I have some questions I'd like to ask if you don't mind.
Sure.
Back in 2017, according to the article, it said something about an issue called FOMO.
Mm-hmm. Fear
What
of
exactly?
missing out.
Right, fear of missing out. So basically, that's a nice way of saying greed, in my opinion.
It is.
Do you think that's going to play any role in what's going on right now with Bitcoin?
Absolutely. Yes, I do. I don't think anyone who understands cryptocurrencies would say that greed is not playing a role. Institutional money would not be pouring into crypto if greed was not a factor. They understand that they're buying it cheap right now, and that 6 months from now, it's going to be a lot more expensive to get into Bitcoin. So, yeah, I would agree with that. Greed is a big part of it.
Cool. I just find the whole thing interesting. Go ahead, conjecture.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you guys have ever heard of Hayek, he was an economist that actually kind of made this theoretical prediction, and Bitcoin has actually fulfilled it in a strange way. He thought what would be necessary to put nation states in check is if the private sector could introduce its own currency, one which would compete with the public sector currencies.
Mm-hmm.
And that would, cause the governments of the world to not inflate as much. But as we've learned, it doesn't matter if they have a check in place. As we've seen this experiment unfold, they will just keep inflating away until they can suck every last cent of value out of everything, out of everyone, actually. And what people do is when the government abuses their fiat power, they just jump to cryptocurrencies. You can look, it was Network Effect, otherwise known as the 4 Satoshis, was talking about how all the countries with high inflation are the ones that are on the top of the list of countries that are most quickly adopting cryptocurrencies,
Hmm.
just to get away from their government's money. Well, it shouldn't be money. I should say their government's currency, because it has to be a store of value to be money.
Right.
And it goes a little further than that. What I think will eventually happen is cryptocurrencies, if governments don't keep their inflation in check, will bring down entire governments, as people choose to no longer hold their fiat to store their wealth. For instance, we have a lot of billionaires who will keep a lot of their money in dollars until they're ready to spend it. A lot of other ones will keep it in precious metals and then sell off the precious metals, but there was a while there it was dollars are just so liquid, and a lot of times you want this liquidity when you want to get into things. But cryptocurrencies can provide a thing that precious metals currently can't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we do have a few cryptocurrencies that are backed by precious metals, but it provides liquidity and a store of value in one asset. It makes it very attractive, especially if you're rich and you want to have a place to store your money where it's safe, it won't go down in value, and it's highly liquid.
Indeed. In fact, it's probably one of the most liquid assets on earth is Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general.
Mm-hmm.
It could be very easily sold, very easily purchased. And I have said on this channel for quite some time that it is a necessity to get into cryptocurrencies and precious metals before institutional money start coming in and the wealth transfer actually starts. So you can still get in while you can afford it. And by the way, Bitcoin, you don't have to buy a full Bitcoin. You can buy tiny fractions of a Bitcoin. They're called Satoshi. So it's not like you have to come up with 11 grand and get a Bitcoin. That's not quite the way it works.
Interesting.
And
Very interesting.
yep, and Bitcoin is stored on electric wallets that you download for free. You keep them right on your PC. So, and then you just hang on to them, or you can spend them right out of the wallet. For instance, JM Bullion allows for purchasing of purchase of precious metals with cryptocurrencies. A lot of places are taking Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, sometimes Bitcoin Cash, as currency to buy products. So it's actually, as Conjecture just said, cryptocurrencies are officially starting to become more than just a store of value. They're becoming an actual, honest-to-God, working currency. So I thought I'd give the little bit of that case history out there to kind of bolster what Conjecture had said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's another aspect of cryptocurrencies that should also be considered, and that would be the fact that as these nations who can't control their spending habits because, politicians are never incentivized to spend less money. They're only incentivized to spend more money, at the larger scale. Small scale, they can always be incentivized to spend less money because they're not the ones in control of the currency, like your states in the United States and your cities and your counties. They are incentivized to keep their aspirations in check. But any government that has a hold of a printing press for their currency is is only incentivized to use it, and use it more and more and more. And as this happens, as in the case of, let's say, we have Argentina, we have Venezuela, we have Iran. Let's see, who else is there, Timmy, that is currently either hyperinflating or up there?
Turkey. Let's see.
Brazil.
Yep, Brazil is heading in that direction very quickly. Let's see, there's a few others. There's about 8 or 9 failing emerging markets right now.
And then you have the countries who don't have control of their printing press, but have the ability just to continually borrow more and more money, such as Greece. Greece has borrowed more than their entire nation's GDP. Basically, that is more than all the money that gets spent in their country in a single year, and they've already spent all of that. Cyprus did bail-ins when they couldn't afford things. They just decided they would steal everyone's money from their bank accounts. And after that, people decided to start going into the cryptocurrency direction. After bail-ins were threatened in Greece, a substantially larger country, we saw cryptocurrency start at, I think it was just over $200, jump to over $1,000 in a very short period of time.
Yep, that was in 2011.
Cryptocurrencies have the potential to become very, deflationary very quickly, especially as these countries' currencies start to implode. Or, in the case of Greece, as the governments decide to steal everyone's savings.
Well, that happens in every country. It happens through inflation.
Right.
So you're referring to hyperinflation, though, because I would tell you that in America, we're having our savings and our store of value being ripped away in the dollar every single day.
I do have a comment for that as well. We've actually lost more value than Timmy stated. We're not down to 3.6% of what it was in 1913. When you look at where we could have been, as in you look at technological advances, for instance, from 1913 till today, we've added things that have made us so much more productive. We have implemented agriculture on a scale never seen before, starting in the late 1800s, but it really started ramping up in the early 20th century. So food costs have gone down significantly. Transportation costs, the cost of rails and everything else, all through the 20th century were falling like crazy, just in the price. They actually out-deflated the dollar. In order to get inflation, they had to start printing faster. But regardless, we've had so much technological improvement. We've had sectors of our economy deflate faster than the currency could inflate. And in those sectors, we have had growth. But if the dollar was not being constantly printed into oblivion, your $300 computer may have been a fraction of that. It's not it would be, maybe less than $20 for you if you were to use 1913 money.
Right. It's a good time to start buying and mining cryptos, because mining right now is actually really profitable.
Well, it's not incredibly profitable like it was in its heyday in 2017, but it is profitable right now. That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
So mining crypto along with buying crypto, there's always been different ways to make money with crypto. You can buy it and hold it. You can buy crypto that quote unquote pay dividends. That's what I call it, but they call them, like minting or whatever. But you can buy certain cryptocurrencies, hold them in a wallet, and they will generate more currency for you just by sitting in a wallet in the form of like paying you dividends or interest. You can buy into initial coin offerings, or you can mine cryptocurrencies yourself. So if anyone has any interest in any one of those things, please comment down in the comment section below. And maybe we'll make a video about what you want. But as far as getting cryptocurrencies, just go to coinbase.com, set up an account, and it's pretty self-explanatory on how to buy into cryptocurrencies. It's actually really easy to do. So, as far as that goes, I have been telling people since Bitcoin was about $4,000, that they should be considering buying Bitcoin. It's now $11,000, so it's nearly tripled since I was recommending it to the listeners of Truth, Money, and Freedom. And I want to say this on the onset. It's very important. You guys know that American Man Conjecture, Sir Brian, or myself, Timmy Chonga, we are not financial consultants in any way, shape, or form. But we are sharing with you what we are doing. The obvious reasons should be very clear. Bitcoin is is a deflationary currency. It's going up in value. The exact opposite of what the dollar does. But I also recommend getting precious metals as well as storable food. So I consider them all linked.
Mm-hmm.
They're all must-haves for hard economic times.
Yep,
For
I agree.
instance, you lose your job. Well, you have all this, what is it? You have savings to dip into. You don't have to buy this food, Food prices can fluctuate heavily. For instance, we just went through this thing with all this corn crop failures. If you had a bunch of storable food just sitting around, you could insulate yourself from food price inflation,
Yeah.
from shortages.
Well, conjecture, it's interesting you should mention that. I'm going to bring something up that the mainstream media says and people who don't necessarily care for Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general. And that is, it can never be a true currency because it is not stable. It's not stable. So, as opposed to the dollar, which they consider stable. Well, you see, the dollar only goes down in value, and Bitcoin, although it can go down in value, it generally goes up in value. For instance, just 3 years ago, Bitcoin was $600 each. Now they're $11,000 each. So it's gone from $600 to $11,000 in a very short period of time. Now, in that 3 years, we've probably only lost about 20% of the value of the dollar. It's hard to go backwards and give you a percentage, but we may have lost anywhere from no, not maybe 30%. Let's say that. Let's say 30% of the value of the dollar during that time. Well, we've lost value in the dollar, but Bitcoin's going up faster than we're losing in valuation in the dollar. Conjecture, would you mind explaining why that phenomenon exists?
Well, I told you just in the last 10 years that we've done a 50% quantity increase of the dollar, which is a 50% devaluation. They can just keep increasing the quantity as much as they want. It's not limited to how many $100 bills they can print, because they can start printing $1,000 bills, $100,000 bills, $1 million bills, and eventually we'll be the nation of the poorest billionaires in the world.
Yep.
Just like Zimbabwe, where everyone will be paying for goods with $100 trillion bills.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
And to explain that a little bit better, I would say that basically people are getting into cryptocurrencies out of fear. A lot of people are getting in out of fear of the dollar going down, or fear on missing out on the train ride when Bitcoin, goes up even higher in value. And by the way, we're not going to sit here and tell you Bitcoin's going to be $1 million a Bitcoin by a certain date. We're not going to do that. In fact, if Bitcoin's worth $1 million, that means the dollar is in very, very dire straits, if not already just about dead. So there will come a time where you won't be able to buy Bitcoin with dollars anymore because people won't want them. So the guy who has the Bitcoin will say, I don't want that. I don't want that. Produce some gold or silver or, whatever the new currency is, and then I'll let you buy some Bitcoin with it. So that's an important part to put in there as well. So Bitcoin is on the rise, and I think it's going to continue on the rise for maybe another week or so before it does what we call a pullback or a consolidation. And I don't know how long that'll last, but I have been watching the markets for quite some time, and that includes the coin market cap as well as the American Big Three indices. I've been watching the bonds, and I've been watching precious metals. And all of these things are telling me that people are getting very worried, they're getting very scared, and they're starting to look for something that they can put their money into where they won't lose value anymore. It's not like Sir Brian can go and get a bank account, and if he gets paid, let's just say 0.5% interest in this new savings account he got, well, that's nothing compared to what he could make in the next year if he put it into Bitcoin. Theoretically, in a year, Bitcoin will be significantly higher. So why would he put currency into a savings account and do that? Well, people are starting to see Bitcoin as a store of value. And by the way, it does qualify for that tag. It is a store of value, and it is deflationary. And deflationary is a good thing. That means the value of your Bitcoin is going to steadily go upwards. Doesn't mean it's not going to have pullbacks. Doesn't mean we're not going to have consolidation periods. They do happen, but generally the trend is up. Now let's take a look at gold and silver here real quick.
Do you mind if I make a comment on the note of gold?
Sure.
From the year roughly, 2000, gold was just over $200 an ounce. And from then till about 2015, it went from $200 an ounce to $1,100 an ounce, and now it's $1,400 an ounce.
Mm-hmm.
We did have a peak of just under $2,000 an ounce, but you look at, most other assets, almost none of them perform that way.
Yep. Well,
gold is a really good store of value as the dollar goes down in value.
I do want to say one more thing, Conjecture. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Conjecture just mentioned a little bit ago about how Bitcoin in 2011 went from $200 to $1,000 in a very quick time period. And that was because of all the certainty that was arising in the Eurozone because of Cyprus, Greece, Portugal, Italy. So I'm going to say something here that's actually linked. Gold also went up during that same time period. And it went all the way up to about $2,000 during that time period. During the same exact time period, people felt times were uncertain, currency was uncertain. I mean, if it came down to it, what if Greece said, "Hey, listen, Eurozone, literally, take your euros and shove it. We ain't working here no more." I mean, no one knew what was going to happen. So basically, people did the only thing they could, which is throw their money into basically stores of value or perceived safe havens. And the bond market went crazy too. If I remember, the 10-year bond went down to, well, at the time, I think it went down to 2%, maybe 1.9% on the 10-year. That means people were going into bonds too. They were simply going to safety. And that's exactly what's happening again right now. People are going into perceived safety. Right now, silver is up 15 cents from Friday close. Gold is up, looks like 26, almost $27 from Friday's close. People are going into safe havens. So, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say it's so the best thing to go into would be like precious metals and Bitcoin right now, because people are sort of now getting to the realization that like currency has no intrinsic value anymore, and it's basically just a tool used by the government that leeches away your time and your freedom by decreasing like your purchasing power.
Absolutely.
So,
And
gold and things with intrinsic value, those are things that that will always have value, but the US dollar might not, well, it will not always be that way.
yep. Yeah, the US
Well,
dollar
there
will
is
fail. Go ahead, Conjecture.
the intrinsic value that all fiat has to offer is this. It makes, it keeps you warm when you have a bunch of it when it's being devalued, when you need to start a fire or, have a fire going.
Yeah.
That's about the end of the intrinsic value of your fiat.
Yep, you can
And-
use it as insulation too when you're homeless. You can crumple them up
Yeah.
and stick them inside your jacket. It'll help keep you warm.
Like newspaper.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it'll have about the same
That's all it
value
is.
as a newspaper. That is correct. Not now, but in the future.
Very near future.
Very.
Okay, gang. Well, I'll tell you what. I think we probably covered this. Guys, just so you know, we will link all of these articles down below, including the coin market cap. And if anyone has any questions, please put them in the comment section. We'll be very happy to answer any questions. However, as long as you understand, we are not financial consultants. We are simply telling you what we're doing. But we have been telling you this since we started the channel, and gold and silver are up and cryptocurrencies are up. And I realize the stock market has gone up since we opened the channel too, but once again, that's an illusion. And I've explained that on the channel multiple times and the reasons why. If they continue printing currency and putting them into stocks and bonds, it will raise their perceived values. But they're not printing money and putting it into Bitcoin. Right now it looks like institutional money's getting in. So if you ever had the inclination of going into cryptocurrencies as a speculation or as a store of value, or literally just to start using it as a currency, now would be the time, in my opinion. Okay, does anyone else have anything to add that you can think of that we haven't covered?
Yes, I do. You were talking about Greece telling the Eurozone to shove it.
No, no,
Well,
I said no one knew if that would happen or not, but go ahead.
I know, but I was just about to say that mentality has started in Italy. They put a proposal forward in which Italy might just introduce their own currency,
Yep,
in which they will originally offer it at a 1-to-1 parity for the euro.
yep, that's correct. In fact, I even covered that. So we actually covered that on Truth, Money, and Freedom. That was a video we put out a week or two ago. So,
The clever
guys,
bit about this is they could offer up this currency that's exchangeable 1-to-1,
yep,
take all of their country's euros, and pay down their debt.
yep, that's correct. That is absolutely correct. And it looks like they could single-handedly take down the Eurozone by doing this.
Yep.
Literally by, basically invalidating the euro. And it's not needed in their country. And while still staying in the Eurozone, no less. In fact, I wonder what Draghi thinks about this. But that's another, podcast for another time. But that's pretty much it, I think. Guys, if you haven't thought about doing this, you might want to think a little more strongly about doing it. And it doesn't mean that Bitcoin won't have a pullback. It doesn't mean that precious metals won't have a pullback. It does happen. In normal markets, pullbacks are completely normal. It's just that we don't seem to have them very often in the stock market anymore because, basically it's an illusionary market. There's no free market in the stock market. And if institutions are getting into cryptocurrencies, which this article has a very good argument for, and it's not just an argument, we know for a fact institutional money's coming in now. That could drive the price of cryptocurrencies quite high by the end of the year. So just remember where this video was, and today is June 24th, and Bitcoin's at about $11,000. So, and then 6 months from now, when you chance upon this video again, you'll be able to see how much it's gone up in that 6 months because, cryptos are definitely back into a bull market. Okay, gang, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk so long, but anyone have anything final they'd like to add before we wrap it up?
I have something I would like to say, and that is because the American fiat currency is losing value at an alarming rate, especially in 2019, don't you think the U.S. government is going to try to find some way to start some kind of war somewhere in the world to try and prop up the United States, or should I say American dollar?
Absolutely.
Value back.
Yeah. And in fact, they're trying really hard. Bolton and others are trying very, very hard to get us embroiled in a war right now. They call them war hawks. I'll call them psychopaths. They're Trilateral
Chicken
Commission.
hawks.
Well, chicken hawks.
Right.
They're Trilateral Commission. They're CFR. They're all kinds
Right.
of secret society, and they're in government, and they definitely want a war. North Korea, Russia, Syria, Iran. Any four of those will do. They don't care which one. But that's what happens at the end of the cycle too. The end of a monetary cycle. It often happens during recessions too. Go to war. And that way you can blame the war for the currency going down in value rather than blaming themselves, the central banks and the politicians that did this to us in the first place. So to answer your question, American man, yes, they're desperate to get us in a war right now. A big one, not just a small one, not a minor skirmish, but a big war.
Okay. Thanks for explaining that.
Yep, no problem. Sir Brian, anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir. It's been a
Okay.
pleasure.
Okay, yeah, it's been a pleasure, and thank you very much, American Man 1967, Conjecture, and Sir Brian for joining us, Truth, Money, and Freedom, for this podcast. Once again, you guys have any questions, throw them in the comments section. I'd like to thank you very much for taking it more than just a few minutes to listen to our roundtable discussion on Bitcoin. But also, too, just to let you know how much we appreciate when you like the video, when you share the videos. We appreciate that a great deal as well. You guys all have a wonderful, wonderful week. May God bless you all.